Do you want to know the most important business analyst interview questions and answers? Then this video is perfect for you. I have worked as a business analyst in the banking industry for a couple of years now, and currently I'm looking for a new role. And in the last couple of weeks, while looking for a new role, I was invited to a couple of interviews with 7 different companies. And from these interviews, I extracted the questions, grouped them, and I want to show you in this video exactly which questions are these companies asking for you when you want to become a business analyst. So let me show the agenda for this video. First, I want to talk about obvious questions. These are the questions you're probably expecting to occur, and these are the ones which seriously, for 100% of my interviews, occurred for each company. So I want to spend just a bit of time for these questions. I want to show you them and tell you my answer, but I don't want to focus on them too much because you will find other videos explaining these questions too. Main part will be the common questions I've heard in these interviews besides the obvious questions. So these will be very important for you. And then also business analysis case study questions which I have heard in these interviews. So I will share some case studies with you and the questions they have asked about that. Then I want to go about a riddle and a brain teaser question, which I also got asked in these interviews with the 7 different companies. And also in the end, I want to give you some bonus questions I recommend you asking as applicant in order to stand out from the crowd. So let's jump directly to the obvious questions which occur every single time. So probably you already know the questions will always be something like, tell us about yourself. Why did you choose this company? And why do you choose this role? Why do you want to leave your current role or company? And where do you see yourself in 5 years? These questions are super obvious, and you probably know that these will occur. When it's about tell us about yourself, I just want you to basically summarize your CV in 60 to 120 seconds, depending on how much experience you have. Just tell about the most important things, where you came from, and why you are here today. Then why this company? Make your research and try to map your personal values with the values of the company. For example, if you're someone really ambitious, always trying to be the best in the field, and the company is also the best in the field, name this. This is the reason why you want to choose or join this company, because you think your value in being the best aligns with the company's value being the best. Then why this role? Why have you applied for a business analyst role in compliance or in payments, in operations? Is there any specific reason? For example, you have previous experience or you think this background would be something beneficial to you, so you're super interested in payments, for example. So why this role? Tell the interviewer why this role. Then why do you want to leave your current role? And this is a tricky question because there are some answers which could lead to some problems for you. You probably know for everything that you say, there is always a real reason and there is a good reason. The real reason is actually why you do something, and the good reason is the one which sells better, which sounds good. And I don't want you to lie, but I want you to incentivize or think about to choose your words wisely. So let's say if money was the problem in your current company, don't say, I changed because of more money or more salary. Although this is true, you could also say it differently. You could say, after working a couple of years in this role in the other company, the company is not having a good financial situation, and you and your line manager had some promise, or he gave you some promises in financial regard, and again the company could not meet these promises. So you told your line manager, because of your personal responsibilities, your family, and so on, you gotta move on and find actually a job that pays what you're worth. So it's the same statement, you want more salary, but different words. Then where do you see yourself in 5 years? And also this is a tricky question. People often say, yeah, I want to be in 2 years here and there, take more leadership, be something like this, right? The problem with this is the interviewer wants to know, okay, are you someone who's trying to change the role pretty quick, meaning after a year or so, they have to hire someone again. And this would be a problem for the interviewer, right? So my answer is always, look, I want to get into this role. I want to prove myself for several years. And after this is done, when I'm established, of course, I would be happy about going more into this direction, more into leadership, or whatever is your personal taste. But make clear you want to stay for the long term and not change roles again after a year. Now let's jump from these obvious questions to the other questions I got asked a lot, but are not that obvious. A common question I got asked in these interviews was, what was the last negative feedback you received from your manager? Here the interviewer wants to know, are you honest? Are you able to reflect and share these details? Be honest about it. For example, if stakeholder management was a problem, tell them your manager told you stakeholder management was a potential to learn something for you, and you actually learned it and did these steps to actually solve this problem. So show what your negative feedback was and show what you did to improve it. Then how would your team members describe you? Also here again, to your team members, you have a different relationship to your boss or to your family or friends. They want to know, how would your team members describe you? Your peers, people who are working closely with you for 8-9 hours a day. Also here, be honest again and try to think, what do they say about you? Do they think you're competent? Do they like to ask you questions because you have good communication skills? Whatever it might be, bring it up and show how your team members describe you. Then the next question was something that really stunned me, amazed me, because it's a very deep question. It is, if you imagine a store where you could buy personality traits, which personality trait would you like to buy? This is a deep question. Think about it for a minute. So every person has different personality traits, right? Someone is more analytical, some is more into communication, whatever it might be. But probably there are traits you would say, hey, I would like to have this trait too, but I personally don't have it as a strength or whatever, right? So think about it deeply. You could say, for example, you would love to actually be more of a motivational speaker, right? So public speaking is a personality skill you would like to master. So this is something you would go more into, right? There's no real right or wrong answer. It just depends on who you are and things you really admire in other people. Then, which role do you usually hold when being part in a team? This is a tricky question. For example, if you're applying for a more leadership business analysis role, but in your spare time you very rarely are the leader in the team, probably things are not matching up. You have to really think about who you really are and what this role is requiring from you. How do you handle different stakeholders, especially difficult ones? This is also a question very common, and my personal answer for this is I know that there are different stakeholders and I try to categorize them. So there are more introvert and extrovert stakeholders, then stakeholders who are more analytical or task-oriented, and some which are more people-oriented. And if you know this about your stakeholder, you can approach the stakeholder better, more efficient. For example, if it's a more introverted person, usually I don't try to basically just stay in front of the person or call him or her. I try to write a message in Skype or by email to first get things going, if the time is there. And if it's a more extroverted person and also loves small talk and stuff like this, I just grab the person, say, hey, are you down for a coffee to discuss something? And the person finds this sympathetic, right? So it tries to connect with you also. So make sure to understand different stakeholders and handle them differently. So what about difficult stakeholders? What is a difficult one? But I try to define a difficult stakeholder as someone who's not easy to approach, someone who is not that friendly, right? You probably know the stakeholder in your team or in your area. And my answer is, it doesn't matter how difficult someone is, it does not affect my nature of being a kind and competent being. When there's a different stakeholder and he or she is doing his or her thing, I don't let them influence my nature. So as I keep calm, I keep patient, I keep being a nice person and asking my questions, whatever it is. I come maybe a bit extra prepared because the stakeholder, like I've said, is more of a difficult one. So if you're extra prepared, they will appreciate it because of their time. And maybe over time, they will be more nice to you, right? This is my approach with difficult stakeholders. Stay true to your nature and be competent, be prepared. Then in the last 2 years, can you tell us about a time where you demonstrated your goal orientation and how did you achieve this goal? With this question, your employer wants to know if you're someone ambitious, if you have achieved something that is above average and they could benefit from an ambitious person. Here you could really tell something. If you made, for example, a weight loss journey, tell about this. If you changed your life in some other regards, tell about this. If you made a career shift, tell about this, right? And also make clear, how did you achieve this goal? So how did you get aware of it? Did you reflect on something? How did you plan achieving the goal? So what were the milestones that you did, the steps that you took, right? Was it a course to get some understanding? And what is your plan there? Share all this and show them that you are able to achieve good results. Then how do you handle risks? In your project, multiple risks will occur and they want to know how you handle them. So for example, as a project manager, there are some risks which are more likely to happen and some which have more effect, have a more severe effect. And my answer to this is, of course, I have to be first aware of risks that might happen, how probable they are of occurring, how bad they are if they are occur. And then I'm thinking about, okay, what can I do to lower the probability of occurring? Or what could I do if they occur to lower the impact of the occurrence of the risk, right? So really think about action items, what I could do. And also important is being transparent. So whenever something occurred, problem occurred, be transparent, escalate quickly, and communicate transparently to the stakeholders, to your boss, And that's how I handle risks. How do you stay organized in your workday, or what about time management? So with this question, your employer wants to know, of course, if you're someone who's able to meet deadlines, who's getting stuff done. And my personal answer for this is to stay organized. I have always or everything scheduled in my calendar. For example, in Outlook, when I have tasks, Outlook tasks, I move them into my calendar to really plan them for the day. So I know these tasks get done. Also, when I know I need a couple of hours to do some work, I block this part of my calendar to ensure that I can do my work. Whenever there is a free spot, people can book meetings, but if I'm blocked, I'm blocked. Of course, this is not always possible one-to-one, but that's a good guide to actually block out some time for you to get your work done. Then outside of work, do you educate yourself too? With this question, your employer wants to know if you're someone who's going the extra mile, who is also adding some value to your personal profile outside of work so the company can benefit. I don't want you to lie if it's not the case, but I want to motivate you to actually educate yourself in your spare time. So what I do is I do love reading some educational books or book a Udemy course to stay up to date with technology, gaining some new knowledge. Do always something besides your job. It doesn't have to be seriously every day, but something you're just working on, you can see results on a monthly basis, for example. With this, you're increasing your market value, and also your employer sees you as more valuable. Then the next question is quite personal. What would the person who was the closest to you say if you would ask him or her to describe you with only 3 attributes? With this question, they really want to know how other people, especially people who are close to you, describe you and see you. I got asked this question seriously 6 or 7 times, and then I asked the person who I was naming, which 3 attributes would they say? And also what I thought is they would say that I'm an ambitious person, that I'm responsible, and that I'm warm-hearted. These are the 3 attributes this person, which is closest to me, would describe me. And if you would ask this person also about a critique, what would be the answer? Also here they want to know, are you honest? Can you reflect on yourself? Of course, if your critique is something super critical for the role, then probably I would not mention it. I would mention a weakness that is true, but also appropriate for the situation. For example, I'm not a super outgoing person or very socially active, going on a lot of events. This is a critique I hear from this person. What are key competencies you think are relevant for this role as a business analyst? With this question, they want to know, are you actually aware of what you should be good in this role? And I've made a video for this too, so I will link it down below or anywhere above here. But just in brief, I think the key competencies of a good or great business analyst are being able to solve problems, because as an intermediary between business and IT, you have to be able to solve problems. You have to be able to break them down. The second quality is communication. Are you able to communicate effectively across different stakeholders, different levels of background and knowledge? You will have IT stakeholders, you will have business stakeholders, 2 different worlds meet each other, and you have to be able to communicate effectively. And the last quality is comprehension and adaptability. As business analysts, you have to learn things quickly and fast. You will have always different stakeholders on the business side, for example, especially with an IT background, and they will use different words, different languages, and you have to be able to adapt to this. You have to consume this knowledge pretty quick. So these 3 things, or let's see, 3 to 4 things are key competencies, I would say. When there is a deadline and you're about 80% done, is it okay for you to deliver a bit less for the customer when you think it doesn't really matter? This question is also a tricky one. Most people would probably say yes or no. But the right answer, I would say, the ideal answer for this question is it depends. Of course, the default should always be to deliver what was expected, or even going the extra mile to deliver more than what was expected. But sometimes during a project you will face a situation that you won't be able to deliver 100% in time. And then it really depends about the risk. What is the risk of delivering less? Is it crucial? Is there a big damage, or isn't there a big damage? What is worth more, the quality or maybe the economical aspect of this? Is maybe 90% sufficient instead of 100%? It really depends on the context. There's no yes or no directly. It depends on how severe the things are, the risk if you miss something, and it has to be really seen by situation for situation. What do you like most doing in your role? With this question, your interviewer wants to know, what do you like most, and is this part also part of the role? So for example, I love the most in my role as business analyst to really dig into business process models, analyze them, improve them, understand them. This is a big part of my role, and I really love this. So it's a great fit. On the other side, they also want to know, what do you like least doing in your role? With this question, they see, okay, if you like something least doing, but this is a crucial part of your new role, then probably it's not a good fit. But also here, be honest, for example, for me, I really don't like chasing people for answers. So when they need to come back to me, I have to chase them every other day. And this is a part of my role that needs to be done, but I really do not really like. So now if you have worked in different roles in the past, let's say before now applying to this business analyst role, you have been a project manager. What did you learn from them or from the last role that is useful for the role you're applying now? With this question, they also want to see, are you able to transfer skills from a previous role to the new one? For example, if you have been a project manager before, you can say you have learned a lot about project management, about managing stakeholders and meeting deadlines and risk management. So in your new role as business analyst, you will be able to actually manage the feature delivery, to manage your stakeholders effectively and meet tight deadlines. And now the last common question, probably at the end of your interview, could be, after leaving the meeting, what do you want us to remember about you? So it's really about what is the lasting impression you want to give, what is your signature. And what I love to say is, if you're looking for an ideal candidate who is very ambitious, going the extra mile, but always is looking to the left and right to the team in order to achieve the team's success or even prioritize it over individual success, then you should keep me in mind. This is what I like to say at the end of the meeting to leave a lasting impression. After we have now completed the common questions, let's dive deeper into the business analysis specific case study questions. So the first case study I want to show, or the first question, was how would you check if a system output, which is based on the input, is as expected? Then they showed me the scenario. So basically we have some XML files, we have a system architecture of many systems, and this system architecture basically produces a new XML file. And then I asked how these XML files look like, and they showed them to me, and I understood, all right, so basically the output file, with tracing back the rules, I'm able to map the output value with the input values. So for example, in our output file, we have the name, but in the input file, we have first name and last name. And there is a rule actually that the name of the output file is a concatenation of the first name and last name of the input file. So what I said is, as this is an XML document, the first thing I want to do is it a valid XML document based on a validation with XML schema, for example? If this is the case, I want to check each field of the output file if the rules are applied and can be mapped back to the input file. So for example, when output.name equals John Doe, then input.firstname equals John and input.lastname equals Doe. If this is the case, then this mapping is accurate and I have to go through all other fields too. If a field is not matching this rule, then I know that the output is not as expected and the test case is actually not passing. This is the answer I have given to the interviewer, and the interviewer was satisfied by the answer. Then the next case study was, or the question was, how do you perform a requirements gathering workshop? So this question is quite big, so I have created a dedicated video for this. I will link it down below again or anywhere up here. So make sure to watch it too if you're interested on how to perform a requirements gathering workshop. Then the last case study I want to show is, how should we gather requirements for more than 50 business processes in order to be efficient? So now what's the problem with this? Of course, the usual approach on how to go over that is go each business process one by one and gather requirements and workshops for each process, right? The problem with this is we have 50 processes which are connected with each other, and that's a lot. And also in these processes, probably we'll have repeating features, so things which will occur in many processes. So going process for process with each workshop is not efficient. So I came up with the following. I said, okay, why don't we build a process feature matrix? So for example, here, each column is a process, for example, onboarding a client, and each line basically represents a feature. So for example, the authentication feature. And with the feature process matrix, we can see which feature is part of which process. For example, we will have features which is part of every or almost every process, and we will have features which is only part of one single process. And with this, we can directly see, okay, we can refine these features or define them not in every workshop for the flow, because it's something that happens through all the workflows or processes. So we can define it once. So defining once the search party functionality, defining once the authentication functionality. And this overview here makes it a lot more easy to go over it so we know which feature is part of which flow, and we can define it just once instead of several times for each flow. After clarifying the case studies, let me tell you something about the brain teaser and the riddle. The brain teaser question I got asked was, can you name 18 characteristics of yourself within 120 seconds? Now you might ask, why is that a brain teaser? Well, imagine you're just having a normal conversation and then the interviewer is asking this one. And of course, the usual reaction would be probably, well, yeah, I can. Something like this. And in my case, I said yes after a couple of seconds of thinking, and my interviewer just took out the clock, the watch, and stopped the time and said, okay, let's go. Tell me 18 characteristics right now. I told him 18 characteristics in less than 120 seconds, so that went well. And I asked, why are you asking this question? And he said he wants to know if I'm someone who's actually thinking before I give a commitment under pressure. That is the idea or the narrative of this question. Are you thinking before you're given a commitment under pressure? Because an interview is something under pressure, right? And 120 seconds also. And they want to know, do you think before you give the commitment of saying yes? I mean, maybe you would say, no, I cannot give you 18, but I can give you 10, something like this. Then the riddle I got asked was the following. I got 9 balls and a balance scale. One ball is heavier than the rest. Find out which ball is heavier with only using the balance scale as a tool, no other tools, no out-of-the-box thinking, just using the scale and the balls. So I'm not a big fan or believer of having directly the best solution. I'm a believer of building a solution and improving it until it's very well working. So I said, okay, for me it's clear, I just have the balls, I have the scale, so I have to weigh the balls. And one way to go over is just saying, hey, I'm weighing 1 against 1 on each side. When the balance scale is at par, meaning both have the same weight, so both are not the heavier one. And if I would go one by one, the maximum amount of tries I would need to find the heavier one is 4. So this is a working solution, but probably the first solution is never the best one. So I said to my interviewer, okay, let's try a different approach. Instead of having a 1-to-1, I'm going to 4-on-4 and having 1 on the bench. So let's say I have 4 balls on each side. And if you assume that one side is heavier, this would mean, okay, here on the right side, one of these 4 balls has to be the heavy one. And now again, for these 4 balls, I have to measure again. So it would take 2 and 2. And again, I would see which side is heavier. And in the end, I have to do, if necessary, again a weigh, and maximum amount of weighs would be 3 tries. So this solution is better than before, but maybe still not the best. So I can try something more. So I said, okay, in this time, I won't separate them 4 and 4. I will make a group of 3. So 3 balls on the bench, 3 on the left side, 3 on the right side. And this time, when the right side is heavier, and I know, okay, out of these 3 balls, 1 is the heavier one. And then I just pick 2 out of these 3 and weigh them against, meaning after 2 tries, I know which ball is the heaviest out of the 9. This is the best solution because just having 1 try max is not feasible. After this riddle was solved, I want to give you a bonus here in this video. Questions I like to ask in order to stand out from other applicants for this role. So make sure to ask these questions to stand out. The first thing I like to ask is, how would you describe the leadership style of a potential line manager? With this, I want to know, what is the culture of the team of my manager? Is it micromanagement? Is it more having more freedom? Micromanagement for me is a no-go, so basically I could directly know if it's something for me or not. Also, it shows to my potential line manager, I think I'm of value and I want to know how you want to lead me. That's a good sign. The next question is, what could be the biggest frustration factor in this role for me? With that, I show my line manager or my hiring manager that I really want to know what is the biggest challenge. And often their answer I use to my advantage. So they're telling me the biggest factor. And then I try to show how I could overcome this factor with my skills. Then, what makes the difference between a good employee and a great one? This question demonstrates that you are probably interested in being a great employee. That's why you want to know the difference. This is symbolizing that you are probably going to be a good one, and they should be interested in great employees, right? Then how would you measure my success in this role? I'm asking this question to first signalize, okay, I want to be successful, so tell me how you would measure it. And also I know how they would measure it and if it does make sense to me too. And now the last question that I like to ask at the very end is, is there anything else you would like to know or ask again, because maybe my first answer was not clear enough. So giving your interview the chance to ask again if something was unclear, just to put things straight.